and welcome to Space Engineers. We're going to call this the Xbox tutorials for now. I'll come up with a title later. The purpose that I have decided to bring to you today is thrusters and learning how to build them. Obviously, well, build them is quite straightforward, it's in the game. If you're creative, survival not as much. But the whole purpose of setting this up is that you've just got the game, you're excited to build your ship, and you've realised you don't have any idea on where to start or how to actually control it, right? This is what I did when I first got the game. I've had this game since it came out. Obviously it's been a while since that point, so I figured even now to this day I still look at different recordings and such, and I've heavily realised there's not actually any tutorials at all. Every single, or console tutorial at all, every single console sort of tutorial, I'm doing bunny ears here, you can't see this, every tutorial that I go into it's always filmed on PC, and people on PC don't have the correct controls that console users do, because obviously it's limited. Everything on a keyboard, wider array, blah blah blah. So I figured, why not make a tutorial that's actually catered to consoles? It's going to be the same information pretty much, but it just means there's less key bindings for you to try and figure out with regards to using a controller over an actual PC. So first things first, you're trying to create a ship, you're going to need thrusters. This is the first point of the tutorial. So the first thing you need to know, there's three types of thrusters. You've got ion, you've got atmosphere, and you have hydrogen, and I've laid them out here, as you can see. Three very different types of thrusters. Now we're going to start with the atmosphere first, simply because this is going to be the easiest bit of information that you actually need for the game. So Atmo is basically planet side only. You can use it on ships for aesthetics, so you can use it to make ship look a bit cooler, I suppose, depending on how you use the thrusters. But these will only work in a planet with atmosphere. So I know the Earth-like planet, which is what we're on currently, has an atmosphere. Mars and Pertron is potentially a planet of atmosphere. I haven't been there yet myself, so I'm unsure. But these are the Atmo thrusters, large grid version. As you can see, they're quite hefty. These are the weakest thrusters in the game currently. They're alright for being on a planet, but as soon as they get into space or towards upper atmosphere of a planet, they essentially become useless. They're great for like making planes, or if you want to make a hover vehicle, etc, etc. They're great, fantastic, but they're kind of useless when it comes to launching off planets. You will need multiple of these to lift the same weight that a hydro thruster can lift. Hydro is the strongest thruster in the game, and ion is in between the two, but particularly best used for space, and we'll get to them too in a second. So you have these are your large grid. They take up 3 block by 3 block space, so 9 blocks total. We'll slap one here actually, yeah, so as you can see, 3 blocks there, which then would mean that you'd have to have 3 blocks going across like that to span it. You can leave it exposed. I think if you had this exposed on like the sides of your ship or underneath your ship wings, it would look very cool. But a lot of turrets and stuff in the game can be used to target propulsion systems, so you've got to make sure that you're taking like enough care to obviously not get blasted out to the sky. Now we have here, this is a small grid ship in one of the classic starting scenes when you're selecting your worlds. This is a construction ship. As you can see, it's got a large grid Atmo thruster here, but it's on a large Atmo thruster, but it's on a small grid version of a ship. So you got them, and this here is your regular sized thruster. It's pretty cool. But now these are currently your weakest. And then if we move over here, we have your ions. These are your large grid ions, so these would be being used for your battleships, capital ships, carrier ships, anything that you want in space, large, that can carry other ships that would then like transfer down to a planet or transfer to someone's base to raid it, etc, etc. These are particularly only useful in space. They can be used on a planet, but their effectiveness is massively reduced. So you would need like many multiple of these to lift probably the same weight as an Atmo, to be honest. So the Atmo and the Ion kind of trade off in terms of capabilities in a way. So if you're going to build a ship and you want Ion, you want it to be like, say, a planet side and a spaceship at the same time, you're gonna want a mix of thrusters. So you're gonna want Atmo and Ion, or even Atmo and hydrogen, or hydrogen and Ion. You're gonna want one that you kind of like just use to help get into space, switch off, and then you'd probably be better off just using your Ions, just because the Ions are less fuel hungry than like hydrogen. So Ion and Atmo, they both take energy instead of fuel, so they'll be powered by your batteries, nuclear reactors, anything that generates energy, basically, like solar panels, wind farms, but wind farms are only usable on planets naturally. Yeah, this is the large. This is also a 3x3, if I remember properly, a 2x3. Yeah, this is 2x3, so that's going to be what, six blocks total. They're fairly chunky, but not too bad. I myself personally, I like to build over it, so I go like up to there, and then I might put one of these here just to give it like a sort of like a smooth bore look kind of thing, like it's an external housing for the engine. Canard, I believe the word is. Sorry. Yeah, so we have this. These are the ions, and then that is pretty much anything that you really need to know over those. They're okay, they're decent. I like using these, just blue's my favourite colour, and obviously, as you can see, it's blue, you know. Now we have got the sun on my eyes. Now we have hydrogen. So hydrogen, first thing you need to know, large grid. This is your large grid, your main thruster, your big thrusters. These are large grid, but smaller, so these take 1 block each. You do have to ensure that you have at least some form of piping or conveyor attached to the yellow squares that are built onto these things, because these take fuel instead of energy. So for Ion and Atmo, you don't have to worry particularly about where you place the block, because it generates the way Space Engineers works is very strange. It's different from other games. Obviously, if you look at a plane in real life, or a helicopter, or any form of aircraft in real life, everything has wiring. Obviously, because of the age of this game, when they built the engine for the first time and technology limitations, they couldn't, how would you say this? They couldn't like simulate wiring properly. So they just made it so that so long as a grid had a power source attached to it, the power source would power the entire grid. You didn't have to make sure everything was like linked up. So like here, if I show you just behind this a sec, we'll go behind the scenes, so to speak. Here you can see this ion thruster is attached to this, which is attached to the rest of the building. This one is not, it's just attached to the thruster. As you can see, there's nothing underneath nothing on the side, nothing on top. It's just attached to the thruster. So essentially what you could do, you could have like a reactor in the middle of the ship, or right at the front of the ship, and then it would power the entire ship. These would be at the back for forward thrust, and that'd pretty much be it. You wouldn't have to really worry about anything. It's the same for the Atmo, they work the same way. But with the hydro thrusters, it requires a hefty amount of fuel, so you'll need hydrogen, and in this game you get this fuel by harvesting ice. You want to place ice in this block here, which is a O2H2 generator. So you'd have the ice here in your inventory, you deposit it into that. You can also put these bottles in and it'll refuel. That's for your jetpack, that's for your oxygen. Quite straightforward. You dump the ice in there, that would convert the ice into hydrogen. Now, realistically, if you're building a large ship, you would have one of these, which is a hydrogen tank. That would just straight up be connected to the generator. Or you'd have these on the underside of the ship thruster. As you can see, they're pretty much the same size as the thruster of the hydrogen tank, to be honest. So a lot of people like to place the hydrogen tank under the thruster and then have a connector block attached to one side of the tank, which would then feed into the ship and then travel off to wherever it is that you had your medical room, and it would be connected to your medical bay and your oxygen generator, etc, etc. Some people like doing that just because it makes it a little bit more compact. It's a bit easier to sneak everything in. You can make some sleek looking designs with ships like that, which is pretty good. You then have your small thrusters, as I say, one block by one block. You don't particularly need to worry about that. These are good, but you need a lot more of these to simulate the lift power of one single thruster, because obviously look at it, it's massive, you know. So there will be a calculator that's on the internet you can use. I will include a link of that in the description, so you literally just put in the weight of your ship as it currently is. It'll ask you how many cargo containers you have, you can put that in, and then it'll ask you if you want to fill your ship with cargo, and it will then calculate precisely how many of each type of thruster you need to generate lift with that type of thruster. So it would have large hydro, small hydro, it would have large ion, small ion, large atmosphere and small atmosphere. And it would tell you how many of like each different version of that thruster you would need to create lift. Typically it tends to be hydrogen, because hydrogen's the best, but it has like a little chart and it will tell you exactly how many, and you can build off that basically. I still use it to this day. I mean, I've been playing, like I say, I've been playing this game since it came out. This game came out years ago. I still use it just because it's helpful to know, you know. And then that brings us to our final little bit, where basically all of these are going to be useless without power. As you can see, I've got a couple of versions of power generators over there. The ions are on, the Atmo ship thrusters are on there, but these are not, because they're not piped up and connected. Just one thing to cover actually while I'm here and I'm thinking about it. What you want for connection is, if you open your wheel using the left analog stick, as we can see, controller, scroll across to logistics number 1, you have these here, which are conveyors. So this is your conveyor junction, and then if you push up on the D-pad, you'll cycle through the other options. Now there is a conveyor sorter. This thing here, you would use this to help make like logistical lines for extracting certain items. So you might have, say you build a landing bay. You have a landing bay, and then you think, right, okay, I want my ship to land here, and this will be where it lands, recharges, and then it's gonna need weaponry. Sorry, it's gonna need ammo for its weaponry. You might build a separate little landing bay / docking area, where it would then move from the landing bay to the docking area, connect on, and you would then want that bit there only to push ammo into your ship, so that your ship's now got like enough rockets for its rocket launchers, railgun ammo, railgun rounds, etc. Right? So you would use this block here to set up a little sorting system so that it drags that stuff away into a storage unit, and then you would then want it to go from the storage unit into the ship, and that will be how you would figure that out and get that working. Apologies. But yeah, you use that, and you use the conveyor system for piping up your systems to provide the fuel for the ship. When I'm building my ships, I like to set up like multiple junctions and little ways around for people to, so if my ship gets shot and damaged, it doesn't just cut out the thruster power straight away, because it's still got an alternative fuel line into it, which normally tends to help out quite a fair bit. Right, now power. So you've got a fair few options for powering your ships, vehicles, bases, all that sort of stuff. So the first ones that we have are your classics that people tend to go for. You have your reactors. These are both for the large grid, so this is your regular sort of sized nuclear reactor, and that's your large nuclear reactor. Now these have different outputs, so we'll go on to this. So this does your max output 15 megawatts, and I believe this one's, is it 30, 150, 300? Oh, bloody hell, that's massive. Yeah, so as you can see, larger size, different thing. Now you fuel both of these with uranium. A lot of them typically just tend to be powered by like batteries and such, which just brings us on to the batteries. So this is your large grid battery. These are just your regular basic blocks. I'm using the generic blocks for thingy, just in case nobody has the, or anybody doesn't have any DLCs, because I know a lot of people like to purchase games, test it out, check it, see if it's something that they enjoy or vibe with, and then they'll then start considering getting hold of the DLCs and stuff like that. And most of the DLCs for this game are quite cheap, mainly cosmetic, but they do add a lot of variety, I think, and I think they're worth it. But hold off, play the game, see what you enjoy. If you keep coming back or you feel like you're hooked, then definitely have a look at getting them. But like I say, they're very cheap, very valuable. Your battery currently provides 12 megawatts as a thing, so is that less or is that more than the nuclear reactor? Actually, not actually. 15, yes, so it's just less than a thing. Now these, you have an option to recharge and discharge them. So if you setting up a base somewhere else, or you wanted to fully charge a ship in a matter of seconds, you could have the battery away. Oh my god, my voice. Sorry. You could have a battery array on your base, tell your ship's batteries, set them to recharge, tell your base batteries to discharge, and it would automatically transfer all of the energy from your base to your ship until they were full. You would then turn them back to auto, and you'd then turn your base batteries back to auto, and it would immediately start gathering energy again. You can get away with just using these. A lot of people just tend to use batteries. They provide an initial charge of 2 blocks, two green bars of energy when you first build them. So they're very helpful for setting out in survival with creating bases, just because they have that initial little energy outburst to power your survival fits, such as your medical bay, your survival kit, your basic refinery, your basic assembler, to get you started on the other things, and then when you've built them, then you can progress onto regular power. A lot of these are required for large ships. You're going to need a heck of a lot to fully power your ship without many issues, and then you just have to make sure you can constantly set them to recharge when you're docked up to a base or a docking station or what have you. Next up, hydrogen engines. This is on right now. I don't believe it's generating any energy. Oh, it is. Okay, right, okay. So its max output is 5 megawatts. As you can see there, it has 100,000 litres of fuel. But the downside is that requires, obviously in the name, requires hydrogen to run. So you would have to have it linked up to an O2 tank, not O2 tank, a H2 tank or an O2 H2 generator in order for it to genuinely run, which means you would need ice. So it's possible. A lot of people just put them in their builds just because they look cool. Like, it's a good engine, the way it's been designed is great, but it's not realistically viable because you're going to have a hydrogen engine, and you might already have hydrogen thrusters installed, which means you're going to go through a lot of ice, and it's something you've got to manage and deal with resource wise. Now the last two, green energy. We have here solar panel and a wind turbine. So the wind turbine spinning right now doesn't really put out a lot of energy, to be honest. It's not 100%. You need a fair few of these just to manage. It's easier having these wind turbines paired up with a battery, just for backup power in case the wind stops, because wind clearance is a thing in this game, so the higher up you build with wind farms the better. But if it stops being, the weather does change, so if it stops being windy in the game, then it could cut off power and you basically gone. The last thing you want to do is do what I did when I first started the game: build wind farms, forget about doing anything else with batteries or anything like that, die, and then when you go to respawn at the worst possible time, the wind is cut, there's no power, your survival kit's gone, so you can't respawn. Your survival kit is your respawn point and where you recharge your suit and your oxygen. If there's no power, it doesn't come up as a spawn option. You can't respawn, you just respawn in your suit. If you're on survival, if you respawn after dying and there's no spawn point, it'll spawn you in a fresh pod, and you'll essentially have to start again if you're nowhere near, because it randomly spawns you from near the same point where you currently were to anywhere else on the planet. And these planets are massive, like they're ridiculously large. And then the final version of energy generation here is the solar panel. Now these solar arrays are quite good. They generate a fair bit of energy, but as always with solar power, you can't rely on it 100%. Now in this world, I've turned off the sun rotation, but if you play on actual survival and you're doing it properly, sun will rotate, hit night time, power's gone, as you'd expect, you know. So that's the downside, and you require a lot of these to match the power output of a battery or a reactor or whatever. A lot of these that are pretty good is you can incorporate these into the build on your spaceships. So my friend, a fair few times when he's shown me his ship, he'll have like his ship, and then on the roof or on the underneath, or he'll have done like some side wings, and the side wings will be coated in solar panels. They just work as an extra little backup power generator sort of thing, which is great. And we built a space station at one point, and we had it on a rotor. Yeah, we had it on a rotor and a hinge it was built on, and we could then tell it to follow the sun, so it would constantly generate power as much as it could, up until obviously the sun went behind another planet or a moon or anything like that, and then it's good. There's a fair bit you can do with them to constantly generate power and make them viable. But yeah, and they just look cool. Like that's a nice look. And then if you stuck them on the side of a ship as well, it just looks even better, you know? Just looks cool. yes, and that's pretty much all that you really need to cover with regards to thrusters. Once again, I will place the thruster calculator that I use into the description. So even if you do have a look at this video and you think, okay, this clearly isn't for me, blah blah, at least you have that little bit of knowledge on the thruster calculator in order to be able to figure out what you need for lifting your ship up and getting off into space. Because both myself and my friend, he started recently, but not massively recently, he still has an issue trying to figure out thrusters, and I do to this day. And like I say, I've been playing for years. But that is all that I wanted to share with you for today. Hopefully that helped. If it has, leave a comment. If you have any questions with regards to Space Engineers, leave a comment as well. I will do my best to explain either in the comments or through another video. Let me know if you enjoyed what I've told you, what you think can be improved, and yeah, that's everything. Have a great day.